Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Another big week for crypto. We've got a lot of green across the board. We're going to dive into all the big crypto news as well as some of the better performers. Sorry this is coming to you a little bit later than normal. I did have a wedding last night, and between that and a newborn, it's taken me a little longer to compile the news today. We do welcome another few hundred new subscribers to the channel. I hope you guys are enjoying the content and a few dozen more members into our premium crypto community. So this week we made a video about how professionals think about investing in commodities, particularly uranium. And we've also been talking about interest rates and that negative yield curve, which has become apparent this week again in the news, but how it's going to affect crypto and how you can protect your wealth. It's probably one of the questions we get asked the most. In terms of our trades or our fundamentals that we put out, the reasons why we believe projects are going higher, we've had some unbelievable success lately. We got you into Engine before the Samsung news. We got you into Binance early. Enigma is one that I've got on at the moment, and these exchange tokens have had an incredible run since we posted. We thought they were going to perform well as this IEO craze starts to take off. Thanks to all our followers that came to our Melbourne meetup this week. We do try to also have pre-drinks with our premium members to get to know you all guys, and we are coming to Sydney on the 12th of April, so keep an eye on my Facebook and Twitter for more details about that. It's great to see you guys. On This Day in Crypto History is a segment I've been doing for about a year now, and it doesn't get a lot of attention. It's more just for me to enjoy and reminisce, but we did get a couple of big retweets today from CZ, from Binance, and a few others, so I'm glad that's on the radar of a few other people, and hopefully you guys can enjoy reminiscing about crypto history as well. Into the US macro news now. So this is something I touched on last week, and a couple of people got upset about, why are you talking about this, guys? And the whole purpose of this channel is to have a well-rounded financial health education. I'm a bit of a libertarian, and when I see things like openly coming out from the World Health Organization that it is probably carcinogenic to humans, Roundup, one of the most used fertilizers throughout history, these topics are important to talk about. And whether it gets you interested in more organic food or just doing your own research, guys, I want to be the person that helps start these important conversations. So Lyft IPO'd at $72, valuing the company at $24 billion. And we've got a lot of unicorn companies now, guys. Companies over $1 billion, startups. Now, the way that capital is forming is changing, and public and private markets, a lot of companies are staying private for longer, and the STO space is going to hopefully break down these barriers to entry, because often it's the rich getting richer. It's all these VCs that get in these deals early, and by the time these companies hit the stock market, they're just at ridiculous valuations, particularly in the tech space. So let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Bed Bath & Beyond, a household name in the US, laid off 150 employees this week, and it's just this death by 1,000 cuts. It seems every week we see more news about weakness in different sectors. 70% of consumers with credit cards say they can't pay it off this year. And this is what happens when we just get so used to paying on our credit card, or Afterpay in Australia has really taken off. People, consumers, are just obsessed with debt, and it wasn't normal a generation or two ago. You saved up money before you wanted to purchase something, and it doesn't surprise me this week we saw Apple Card come out. Now, Apple have been struggling to sell as many units of iPhones and iPads and whatnot. So what do? They move into another industry that's highly profitable, finance and banking. Now, they've partnered with Goldman Sachs and MasterCards. Look, all these tech companies and banks have betrayed our trust before. This new card is going to track every purchase you make in GPS. They're going to be collecting all this data. That is why they're doing this, guys, to make money. And when we look at the interest rates on the Apple Card, between 13 and 24%, I don't think this is anything to get too excited about, to be honest, guys. But again, am I missing something? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, the size of the US national debt, including those unfunded liabilities, Medicare, Medicaid, pensions, all that sort of thing, $222 trillion. So look, this is just that figure that seems to continue to grow every time we report it. But it's important to note that the debt has been linked to depression. And again, this channel is going to be all-rounded, particularly with my pharmacy background, and we don't want this sort of thing happening. Consumers, particularly without good financial education, get themselves into these positions, and it's really stressful. It affects family, friends, those around them, can affect their workplace, guys. So I think a good financial education is part of a good overall health. Now, over to the Fed, and Larry Kudlow has come out and said he wants to cut rates immediately. And these are the sort of cheerleaders that we see come out when things are starting to get tough. And Janet Yellen's now saying, even though she said that she'd never see another financial crisis in her lifetime not that long ago, now she's saying that central banks don't have enough adequate tools. If there's another downturn, she wants the Fed to be able to buy stocks and corporate bonds. So just as we've seen in Japan, they've started buying up stocks, ETFs, corporate bonds. The US is next, guys. This is going to be absolutely crazy what happens in the next downturn. Printing money didn't work. Taking interest rates to zero and even negative in Europe hasn't really worked. And now they're saying, well, what the hell can we do? We're going to just have to buy everything. And it's going to get crazy. I've spoken about what I think happening in Australia as well. Peter Schiff probably hits the nail on the head here where he says nobody's going to buy all the Fed's BS next time around. They've been just jawboning for 10 years now about how everything's great. It's going to be better next year. It's going to be better next year. And here we are heading into the next downturn. We have that 10-year minus the 3-month, I think it was, Treasury this time also turning negative. So this one's showing the 2-year, but look, all the way down to the 3-month bond has now turned negative. And what we find is that this tends to lead the recession by around 12 to 18 months. So it's going to be interesting to watch. It seems every week we're reporting this news of what an interesting time to be alive. And it's these big banks, particularly in Europe, that are still really weak. Look, Europe is just such an interesting case. We've got Italy in huge amounts of debt, something like 800 billion in bonds coming due in the next 12 months. France, we know the situation there with the yellow vests. Brexit, I think that the euro is going to come under such pressure to stay together. It just doesn't seem natural to me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But look, this is what you're going to start to see, guys. The ECB and all the other central banks talking about how they can safely do negative interest rates and how it's not going to affect everything. As always, guys, they need an excuse. And this is probably topped off here in the macroeconomic news I want to report for you guys today. The International Monetary Fund and the BIS coming out and warning that emerging markets are going to be crushed in the next financial crisis. Just like consumers, they're under way too much debt. A lot of that's denominated in US dollars. They're not going to be able to pay that off. And they come out and said that the IMF don't have sufficient lending capacity to respond. So each crisis has kind of got bigger and further up the food chain. And we're to the point now where all the central banks are going to have to be bailed out in the next downturn. And who knows what that looks like, but we'll try to continue to keep you guys up to date with a finger on the pulse. Into the crypto news here, and we're very excited this week to help launch Australia's first end-to-end solution. So there's a few other STO platforms in Australia that help you digitize securities, but by us partnering with Concrete, we want to help startups raise money, develop their business, issue those securities in a fully compliant manner with our in-house lawyers, and then obviously launch your digital token. And we can tokenize any digital asset, guys. This is big news. Head over to nuggetsnews.com.au and check that one out. Now this week we did have Paul on the channel. There was a big recent convention in South Australia. It's been a success. Check that one out. It's great to see Australia alive and well in the blockchain space, particularly in South Australia, maybe a state that doesn't often get that much recognition. Over to Funfair now, and they have launched the first licensed title. So Alice Cooper, school's out for summer. This is their first blockchain game, first licensed title. If you saw that interview we did with Jez San, these guys have got the goods. It's just now all about onboarding users, and that Funfair token is going to have a lot of utility if this starts to take off. Over to Bitmain now, and this was interesting to me. Bitmain did attend our meetup in Melbourne the other night, and I think they're on target to come to Australia. They want to open up, like I was a bit taken back when they were saying they were going to use some of the base load from coal plants. And look, I'm pretty much against coal energy, guys. I think somewhere like Australia just should have every effort in the world to be going more renewable. So when I hear that, Bitmain are coming over to get power off these baseload plants that have excess power, but when you hear that they're coal guys, I'm not sure what I think about that. But Bitmain have announced that their new Antminer S17 has got a lot improved energy efficiency. Walton Chain is one we've been covering on the channel for a couple of years now. It's one that I still own, I still like long term. They've had a lot of good news recently, so I'd recommend you head over to their Medium, to their website and check that out. But they rolled out cross-chain testing. Walton Chain has got those lots of little sister chains all talking to each other with that Internet of Things focus. They've rolled out some Bamboo wallets this week. This is another one where I just see them being very busy building in crypto winter. Some Amisa Go news now, and The Block, who are normally a pretty good, reliable source of news, reported that Thailand's richest company acquires the firm behind Amisa Go, and this turned out to be false from what we know so far. Some say this story is still developing, but Amisa Go had a big spike, and then I did let you guys know that I think this was false. So Jun from Amisa Go tweeted that it's not true, and Amisa Go has since fallen slightly. So look, keep your eye on this story. I'm sure we'll see it develop throughout the week, but apparently Amisa Go, the payment gateway, has not been acquired, and that is the parent company of Amisa Go. So Japan's largest railway company considers new crypto payment system for transport cards, and this was tweeted out by QuantStamp, and a lot of people got really excited. I don't think this really has anything to do directly with QuantStamp. They do have a strong Japanese presence, and obviously a lot of pull in the Japanese crypto community. But either way, good to see more adoption of these sort of payment systems, and we're seeing all sorts of varieties of these now. So Ripple here, good news if you're a Ripple holder. Indian bank partners with RippleNet to facilitate cross-border payments. Whether or not this is using the XRP token remains to be seen, and that's still that number one thing that I've spoken about that you need if you're a Ripple holder before you start getting too excited. And this one happened a couple of weeks ago, but Qtum is one of those projects I spoke about, the old projects that are going to come back into fashion this new because they've been so busy building. And you can now use Qtum anywhere where you can use that Apple Pay and Samsung Pay through this Zoox app. So this was pretty interesting. Head to their website or Twitter to have a bit more of a read about what they've been up to, guys. But they're really integrating a lot of different cryptocurrencies and simplifying the way that you pay, particularly in a lot of developing countries, I believe, is their main focus. So KuCoin has enabled credit card purchases, and we don't encourage you to purchase crypto, a speculative volatile asset, on your credit card, but a lot of people just want that ability to be able to do that, even if they pay it down later, because a lot of, particularly in Australia, a lot of the banks have disabled any purchases of crypto or even transfers to exchanges with credit cards. So KuCoin have added that option. We saw a couple of hacks this week, and the first one went pretty unreported. So Coinbean, $105 million of crypto on the move. And then we saw the big one. So BitThumb hacked out of 3 million EOS tokens and 20 million XRP. So exchanges are pretty good these days at getting their finger on the pulse, so watching where these are moving throughout the ecosystem, freezing those amounts. Particularly, we know EOS can... the block producers have the ability to do that. So again, let me know if you think that that immutability is a good thing in this instance, and a few of the exchanges which let those tokens get through and sold on market. But I can't believe anyone's still using BitThumb. This is like the third or fourth time they've had a big hack. Don't keep your crypto on exchanges, keep it on a hardware wallet. So Ledger and Legacy Trust to offer institutional custody of ERC20 tokens. Now, a couple of things I've been talking about. One is always store your crypto on a hardware wallet. We've got the links in the description below. The other is that institutional custody solutions are going to be a big thing in the next year or two, because some clients just don't want to have to deal with a private key and storage. They're happy to pay someone else. And then we see the top cap coins, the better ERC20 tokens. This is where all the money is going to flow in. So a lot of people, we do try and look for those low cap gems, but with prices where they are now, I think a lot of money is going to flow into the mid to larger cap coins and the best ERC20 projects. Now, Ledger did integrate with Cardano this week. This was one that we reported about a couple of weeks ago and said we were looking forward to it, and Cardano's been another one that's continued a nice run since we covered it in our fundamental analysis at around 4 or 5 cents for you guys a couple of weeks ago. Now, on to Tron, and this one always divides the community. I'm sure plenty of you watching this video have Tron and you're believers in Justin Sun, but there's just so much evidence now coming out, guys. Half his following is fake. They did that random draw of the Tesla giveaway, and there was fake screenshots. This guy's name flashed up halfway through the video. It appeared to all be set up, and then not sure if they've decided to give him a Tesla now, but so much has happened for Tron since they plagiarized their white paper. Now Justin Sun's got fake followers and bots, and now we have all this going on. I'm just not sure how anyone can take Tron seriously at this point, and it really makes me question the numbers they put out about their active users on all their dApps. If everything else they're doing is fake, why wouldn't you believe that all those stats they're putting out are fake as well? But if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. Over to Ethereum now, and DAI has been enabled as a plasma asset. So most of you are familiar with that DAI stablecoin, but we've seen something like the X-Burner wallet. This is a second layer, a side chain for DAI to speed up those payments. And what this is having our plasma. Again, it's another form of a second layer solution which we can peg DAI to and have scaling for stablecoins. This is awesome to see. We've had a lot of news about scaling this week for Ethereum. Check this article out. A primer for Ethereum and sharding, which is coming. And I did do a big wrap up about everything that's coming for Ethereum 2.0 soon, but it turns out that there's been a lot of progress made recently. Ethereum Serenity, which is the proof of stake testnet, is up and closer than ever. So it's very exciting to watch Prismatic Labs and all these companies that have been working on Ethereum scaling start to put out these testnets and so on. I guess the final piece of news, as expected, was the SEC extending its deadline for the Vanek ETF. That's a big one we're all waiting on, and the Bitwise. We know that they can extend this again. They're going to kick the can down the road most likely. So look, let's not hold our breath. This deadline's now back to October 2019. But you know my stance. It's that real-world adoption, which is already taking off. We're seeing increasing volume in those developing nations, and that's going to be the big driver of Bitcoin's price. So I've touched on these exchange tokens a couple of times now. I made this video back in August last year, and Bibox was certainly one of the ones that had one of the more generous reward systems. But I did caution that I thought, like a lot of exchanges that have come out this week, that the majority of their volume were fake. So you do have to be aware of that. But as far as their rewards program, it's pretty attractive. We did post for you guys in our premium area that we thought all these exchange tokens were going to do really well a couple of weeks ago and a couple of months ago for Binance. And as we see here from this post, over 200%. So a great run. Whenever you see this and you see these huge wicks on the daily, guys, that's probably the time to take profit. But hey, it is consolidating at the moment. Let's see if it wants to have another leg higher. Cardano's also had a great run. We'll just bring that one up quickly. Since that news of ledger integration, more updates, and this is what we watched, just riding these moving averages on the 4 hour. A lot of you are taking those sort of trades, but let's have a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. So Bitcoin's really at this crucial level now. I've got lines going everywhere on this chart, but last week we were looking for a bottom to occur around the 23rd. So this did come a day or two later on our cycle brackets that have been a pretty good guide recently. But we're continuing to push higher, and we're right at this key resistance. I've got to draw on better on here around the 4100 level we've been watching. There's a couple of patterns that are still in play. So if we go to the daily chart, we've still got this, inverted headed shoulders. This right shoulder is starting to draw out a little bit. I'm not too fussed what we want to call these patterns. And if we zoom out to the weekly, we've still got this Adam and Eve pattern that's still in play as well. So that V bottom and then the more rounder double bottom to form. Now, if we look at the RSI, we're still relatively low on the weekly. So if this does break through, this could very quickly go to 4,500, 5,000. Maybe we have that bit of a pullback and test to 6,000, because that's the ultimate test, guys, before we get too excited about being in a bull market. If we go back to the daily, I think we'd have to say that we are really just pausing here. We've had a good move higher on decent volume, and now we're starting to get some lighter selling volume. Next level there, we've got that 200-day moving average come into play, and that is going to be right around that 4,500 level. So you'd have to say if we do break through here, and it is just stair-stepping high, this is becoming a beautiful ascending triangle as well. So it doesn't matter what we call this chart pattern, guys, it still continues to look pretty positive when a lot of people are still looking for one more low. And we have to be mindful whether this is the disbelief phase or whether this is just another a bear flag of some description. And the only real warning sign here is this decreasing sort of volume since we've started to have the run off the lows here. So look, that's probably the only cautious flag I'm waving at the moment. Is I'd like this bull volume to increase notably if we do break this really key level. And if that does, and then I really like the situation where we come back and test it and then have a really strong attempt at some of these higher levels that we've just spoken about there, guys. I hope you've enjoyed that video. If you do want more information, head over to nuggetsnews.com.au. We have been speaking about all these different types of patterns. We've also done an introduction on how to short and hedge if you think the markets are going lower. Otherwise, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share these videos around, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.